Welcome to Queens by Design, where we take the Word of God and we use it practically. We teach you guys how to use everything practically from the viewpoint of the Word. I'm Pastor Emily, along with
Katie Owens.
And we just
Diane.
we just want to welcome you today. And before we get started, we have a guest. And she done announced herself. but this guest, she's my mother-in-law, and I've had the pleasure of having her in my life, been blessed by that relationship. So I thought I would not be selfish, and I thought I'd share her with the rest of the world. So
thank you.
Very instrumental in my life. She's one of my favorite people. I know everybody can't say that about their mother-in-law, but I can say that with my mind.
Okay.
But welcome, Diane Tufts.
Thank you.
Join us today.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, we're glad to have you. So, today's scripture is 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. Now, that's a quick read. I'm going to read it real quick for you, and it's a story. It says, a certain woman of the wives of the sons of prophets cried out to Elijah, saying, your servant, my husband, is dead. And you know that your servant feared the Lord. And the creditor is coming to take my 2 sons to be his slaves. So Elijah said to her, what shall I do for you? Tell me, what do you have in the house? And she said, your maidservant has nothing in the house but a jar of oil. Then he said, go borrow vessels from everywhere, from all your neighbors, empty vessels. Do not gather just a few. And when you have come in, you shall shut the door behind you, you and your sons, then pour it into all those vessels and set aside the full ones. So she went from him and shut the door behind her and her sons, who brought the vessels to her, and she poured it out. Now it came to pass when the vessels were full that she said to her son, bring me another vessel. And he said to her, there is not another vessel. So the oil ceased. Then she came and told the man of God, and he said, go, sell the oil and pay your debt, and you and your sons live on the rest. So today we're going to be talking about what is in your house. We see in the story with Elijah, this lady, she's going, her husband has died, and he has debt. And back in the day, it was permissible, it was allowable for the creditor to come get your children to pay off that debt. And so, of course, she just lost her husband. She don't want to lose her sons as well. So she's going out and she's going to the prophet and say, hey, what can I do? And he says, what do you have in your house? She goes back and looks, and she finds this oil. It's the only thing she has, and it wasn't a big jar of oil. It was a little thing of oil. And of course, we can assume she has sold everything she can possibly sell. And this little thing of oil, and he tells her to go borrow from other places, other people, their vessels. And vessels, it could have been bowls, it could have been jars, it was anything. And this was the very thing that he used to bless. He used to bless her and her family. Now, when I read the story, I have a lot of stuff that just really conjured up for me, but I want to hear from you guys. What is that story kind of conjure up for you?
You want to go, Diane?
No, you go.
Yeah.
So for me, I kind of took it in a different manner as far as knowing what's in your house.
Okay.
And making sure that you don't have too much stuff. I've been watching this documentary on Netflix called The Minimalists, and it talks about less is now and how knowing what is in your house versus, well, I think I have that in my house, but I'm not really sure, so I'm just going to go out and buy some more.
Exactly.
We tend to do that out of convenience, especially with groceries and things like that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We tend to do things out of convenience because we don't want to look for things. But when you take the time to really go through the things that you have in your house and minimalize things so that it's not as cluttered or you don't have so much stuff, you tend to create a better environment for yourself, for your family, and
that's a really different perspective, even from what what I'm thinking. But I'm gonna get to me later. But
yeah, well, I've been focusing on Isaiah 55 verses 1 through 2, and also Matthew 6:19 through 21. It talks about how don't store up treasures here on earth, but store up your treasures in heaven.
Okay.
Wherever your treasure is the desire of your heart. So
I like that.
I've just really been focusing on trying to minimalize the things that are in my house so that I'm not, I feel a little bit clearer when I'm able to, if somebody asks me for something, I can say, yeah, I got that. Or nope, can't help you.
No, I like that perspective of knowing what you do have in your house, because obviously this lady knew what she had in her house because she was able to quickly to go back and tell the prophet, hey, I got this oil.
Yeah.
It's like she knew what she did have. And that's a good point, because we can get very, especially in the United States, because we have access to so much stuff sometimes that it can be cluttery.
Yeah.
It can be cluttery, and we can get overwhelmed with that clutter, and it's so much. But I find too, sometimes when I'm starting to purge, get rid of stuff, it's like, and then I find out that I didn't need it anyway.
Right.
I've even done that.
There's something different. My mother-in-law always teases me about the fact that I could go blind tomorrow and still know where things were in my house. Well, some things. Don't ask me about anything in the storage room, though.
It's like, storage room, that's a little sketch, but yeah.
That's a little scary.
Well, Mom, what was your perspective?
Well, I believe that when the scripture talks about how the woman, how the prophet told her to go and get the vessels, and she sent her sons out. Vessels can, like you said, can be different sizes, and in order for her, she had to have some big vessels, because it said when it was full, then the oil stopped. So she had to have a lot of different vessels that she borrowed from her neighbor. Now, that back in the day, you could go to your neighbor's house, or if you needed something, okay, I need some sugar, or I had a neighbor. She always said, "Oh," when it was Thanksgiving time, she would always say, "Oh," she would call and say, "Diane, do you got nutmeg?" I said, "Yeah, I got it. I'll send it over." As her son would come and get it, or she'll say, "Do you got some extra eggs?" I said, "Oh yeah." And back in the day, that's what you call the neighborhood, a community gathering together, looking out for each other. And I saw that in her, evidently, because sometimes when you can have the worst neighbor ever, and they don't want to do anything for you. But from the way the scripture said, they gather different vessels from their neighbors.
Yeah.
So it was something that they know she needed, and they were glad to give it to
To
her.
give it. I I thought that was great. I mean, I remember when I moved to the house I live now, we moved in and there's two planters in front of my house. And we came in there and I was putting in stuff and I was like, and I came back out, I was like, there's flowers in these boxes. And I'm like, wow. And here my landlord put it in there.
Oh,
And then on top of that, I had neighbors. And neighbors came in there, it's like here. And they had this big old thing of brownies for my family. And then had another neighbor. He came and brought pies. He made pies and brought them over. And so I was like, oh my gosh, we're living in Mayberry. Like this does exist, you know? And it was so nice, like knowing your neighbors.
Your
And it was like
community.
really kind of the first time we actually had that kind of sense of community.
yeah,
I was like, that's so awesome.
yeah.
And like I met neighbors walk in the street and I'm like, hey, how you doing? That's awesome.
Mhm.
And it seems to me like this lady had those kind of neighbors
Right.
that they looked out for one another. And that's actually a good another angle. Even in this story, they had neighbors that looked out for each other.
Right.
What I kind of got out of it when I was reading, I'm like, man, is that what she had in her house was enough.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of
yeah.
times we look at what we have and we say it's not enough to God. But
Mhm.
God, he was like, he didn't need the full everything to be already, done everything. He just needed a seed to work with.
Right.
And a lot of times we look at things, we miss it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't see the seed clearly.
Mm-hmm.
I remember this lady, I was helping her clean out our house, and it was just more so she just had a lot of stuff, and so her and her kids, they bagged up the stuff, and they told me, she's like, hey, because the next time I came over, she said, hey, we were able to donate a lot of stuff. I was like, girl, I said, look at you providing jobs. And she said, huh? Because she needed a job at the time. And I was like, yeah, I said, when you gave those clothes to like the Goodwill, that provided jobs for people.
Mm-hmm.
That was your seed.
Mm-hmm.
That's your seed for you to get a job.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, huh? And she was like putting it together. Yeah, it didn't look like it was a seed for a job, but it was. I was like, because when you know anything about the Goodwill, when people donate, it helps produce jobs for people, because people come in and do what? They buy stuff from the Goodwill,
Right.
and the money they make, they can pay other people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how that works. And so she was like, wow, that's crazy,
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes we miss it. We miss looking at those seeds and we're like, I don't have this, I don't have that. But I think one thing about her, she was very obedient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She was so obedient to what the prophet was telling her.
Right. And she could have said, don't you see what I got in my house? This is it. This is it. I don't have anything. And you telling me that I got to just get vessels? She could have did all of that, but she decided, okay, I'm gonna be, like you said, obedient. I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna do this. Sometimes we look in our house and we know some neighbor or someone that needs, and we say, oh, well, let's just go to the store. But sometimes there's only money allowed in the budget. And so we have to look at what we got in our house. Okay, oh, they need this. Oh, they need that. Okay, we got it. And we can give it. And see, God looks at your heart and he knows whether you give it grudgingly, they always asking, or where whether you say, "Oh, okay, I got to just, I'll bring it to you." We have to know how, uh, when we present ourselves, we're representing Jesus. We're representing who what He has given to us. So we can't begrudgingly. When somebody say, "Man, they always asking, can't they
Yeah,
get it together?" No, but we have to still do.
exactly. We
It's
have to, like you said, represent Christ.
that's right.
We have to. And I saw growing up, I saw my mom do that.
Hmm.
She had a friend, they were in need, and she was going to our cabinets and she was putting stuff in the bags. I'm like, Mom, what you doing? She's like,
Hmm.
they have need and we got it, and there we go. And she called a friend up, come get some groceries.
Hmm.
And it didn't like they didn't have like the money to give them, but they had what they had in the house.
That's
They already
right.
had that. And a lot of times I think even in that story with the this widow, she might have had neighbors like, man, I really wish I could help her. And if I had the money, like I'd give it to her.
Hmm.
And what well but what they had was what she needed.
Mm-hmm.
And that she didn't ask that she needed food. She didn't ask about that. She just asked for the vessel.
Yep.
And you know, we sometimes we see the homeless. Could you give me something? Could you give me money? And we always change that around, and we say, "Oh, well, what do you need?" And then they say, "Oh, I just want something to eat." And as soon as we say, "Okay, are we gonna go get you something to eat?" Or they're by a store, "Okay, we're gonna go in here and get you something to eat." "Oh, no, 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 I'm not talking about that kind of food. I just need the money." And I said, "Oh, okay." It's a difference. But this woman, she didn't go asking them for food. She knew what was in her house, and the what the prophet told her to do. And all she needed was the vessels.
Mm-hmm.
Good. I mean, I even used this principle years ago when I first got married. I love candles. Candles were my thing, especially them 3 wick candles. But them
Mhm.
3 wick candles, they're like $40, $50.
Yeah.
I'm like, $50, I got to eat. We have a family, I
Mhm.
got to eat. So we have bills to pay. So we just didn't have money for what I call a luxury item at the time. So I was like, I like candles though.
Mhm.
So what I ended up doing is going on the internet. And this time they had, I'm taking y'all way back, so I'm gonna date myself a little bit. They had them little those CDs, and you can get free
Yeah.
internet and free internet. Because one thing this story taught me is that there was 2 principles: what was in her house
Mhm.
and what she had access to. And
Mm.
so, and what was in my house was the internet, free internet. And then I didn't even have a printer, but I had a computer.
Mhm.
So, and I had some paper and pencil. So I went on the internet and started looking up how to make candles. And I
Mhm.
kept on going different sites, and I write it all down, all the techniques and everything. And I was like, okay. Now as I was doing my research, I was like, ooh, the equipment is expensive too. I'm like, okay, how can I work this out? But then I had access, and who I had access to was my mother. My mother loved candles. She loved those little paper candles, and she would
Mhm.
burn them like this much, and then she was about to get rid of them. I was like, Mom, don't get rid of them. Don't get rid of them. I took those candles, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna melt these down. I didn't have the wicks, the proper wick, because you have to buy that stuff. But I melted those things down, and I took those wicks out of those candles and reused them. I mean, she had was an electric skillet. I used that. I used my dad's old coffee cans, those tin cans. I used all of that stuff.
Mhm.
That's what I had access to. And it eventually blossomed into a business.
Mhm.
But I was using those principles. And I didn't even know that was going to go to a business. I mean, I got really good at it. I started making, cupcake candles, the cinnamon roll candles, the pie candle. I got real good at it.
Mm-hmm.
But it started with that principle.
Yeah.
And a lot of you have businesses already in your house.
That's right.
Even going on, I don't know if you guys watch those home improvement things on the internet or like
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube. People do the home improvement stuff or those
Yeah.
little furniture
Mm-hmm.
flips. I watched them that had gotten furniture for like, $10, $12, like a dresser, one of them old school dressers. They had refinished those things and sold it for $650.
Mm-hmm.
Some of you already have your business in your house. Some of you got to relook at your stuff. Like Katie said, knowing what's in your house.
Right. Right.
And what you have access to.
Mm-hmm.
Those are important things.
Mm-hmm. And now, and even nowadays, where their businesses are have their employees just working from home, so you know what's in your house to be
Mhm.
able to do that. Working at home and zooming in when or just in general, being able to make your business to be able to have a job. That's the bottom line. And you can work at your house, but you have to know what's in your house in order to do that. And so we have to make sure we can be creative, like you said, Emily, as far as making sure what you got in your house, you could, oh, let me see what I can do. I can do this. Oh, I can do this. Uh, we always think, okay, we got to go buy things. But when we look at what we have in our house, we can make sure that we are able to change things, be creative. That's why I say you when you're being creative, you can look at, oh, I could do this. I saw this on this show and they did this and it seems really easy. Or I saw it on YouTube how to do things. And we can
Mm-hmm.
always make sure that we know what's in our house.
Exactly.
One
And
of
looking
the,
at, go ahead.
one of the things that really stuck out to me is, Diane, when you said knowing your community and being able to know your neighbors. It blows my mind how many people do not know their neighbors. They don't know their
Right.
mailman. They don't know their trash guy's name. Not that you have to know those people, but I just think that it helps you to know those people. So if you do need something, I mean,
Mhm.
I got 5.5 kids. So
You say 5.5?
yeah.
He's pregnant.
so so if I need something, my family isn't up here. Daryl's family is closer to us, but they're not always available.
Mhm.
And so if I need something, I can't call up my mom and be like, "Hey, can you drive 3 hours and get me some sugar?" You know?
Mhm.
So
Exactly.
I think it's really important to know your community, know your neighbors so that they can help you in that situation.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I got from when you guys were talking was just being obedient,
Mhm.
being obedient to God's word and understanding that it's he's not necessarily telling you don't have anything in your house.
Mhm.
He's
Mm-hmm.
I think that one of the things that he's trying to say is just be mindful of what you have in your house and be
Mhm.
mindful of how you can use it. This
Yeah.
isn't going to be seen by my mom before Mother's Day. So, one of the things that my mom loves is teapots. She collects teapots all day, every day. She loves pottery. She loves teapots.
Mhm.
And she also loves snowmen. So what she does is at the end of fall, she takes her teapots down and she puts snowmen up. And then in the spring, she puts the snowmen away and she puts her teapots out. Well, this spring, she was putting her teapots out and she was just like, Katie, I just have so much and I just have so much stuff. And I don't want to burden you when that time comes. I don't want you to be overwhelmed with all these teapots. And so she ended up giving me 3 different teapots that she likes, but she can do without. And the kids and I are going to take them and mount them onto some wood and make bird feeders out of them. Because that's another thing that she really likes is to sit in her sunroom and watch the birds.
Oh,
So
nice.
we're gonna recycle them, if you will, and she'll still be able to have them, but it's a different purpose than
That's really nice.
sitting on a shelf. You know,
That's really
so
nice.
knowing
That
what
is
you
nice.
have, and even if you have a lot of it, knowing how to use those things in different ways.
Exactly.
And I think too, be ready to be a distribution center.
Yeah.
You have stuff, and knowing that not all that's supposed is going to be it's not all yours. Maybe there's a reason for this thing or another thing. I remember one time my mom had given me this tea set. Oh my goodness, I really love the tea set, and it wasn't nothing very expensive or whatever. I just really, really love it. It was really pretty, and she gave it to me. I was like, oh my goodness, it was so great. And then I, hear the Holy Spirit's like, pack that up and give it to some other lady or whatever in my church. And I'm like, all right, Lord. And so I packed it up and I gave it to her. She's like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. I never had anything, and just going on and on and on about it. But we got to be able to be a distribution center as well. I remember even when my mom passed away about a year ago, she loved Waterford, everything Waterford. And my sister and I were going through all this stuff. And my brother was like, that's all y'all, and my mom had left it to me, my sister, she's like, y'all, your brother don't care about it. But she was like, but it was so much of it. And I'm like, I can't take it all to my house and she couldn't take it all to hers. And my mom was generous. She had bought me stuff. So a lot of it in duplicates. And so I'm like, okay, mom really wants just people to enjoy stuff. So we start giving out. We just start getting out. I'm like, because what's the purpose of having it in boxes and boxes in my house?
Right.
Exactly.
No one's getting the use out of it. No one's enjoying it. And she enjoyed her stuff. And so I was like, here, you can have this. She had this beautiful, it was a pedestal cake holder. Beautiful. That thing was heavy as all get out. I don't even know how she carried it. And so I was like this. And I'm like, my back hurts just looking at it. And so that's how that thing was heavy. When you just like barely lifting it up a table and it's like, I'm like, oh no. And it was beautiful. But I was like, I knew I wasn't going to use it. And so I ended up getting it to my cousin. And I'm like, take it. Just take it. I was like, because I didn't want it. My sister didn't want it. My brother didn't want it. I was like, that thing's heavy. It's heavy. And he likes to cook. So I was like, go ahead. Take it. But it was so nice to be able to do that. And sometimes we hold on to stuff that God's telling us to move on.
That's right.
That could be a blessing to someone else. And
yes, bless somebody else.
Yeah, because some people were like,
especially if you're not going to use it.
Yeah,
exactly. And some of them, I was like, listen. I was like, go ahead. And he was like, I've never had anything like this. And I was like, well, now you do. You're blessed and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And that felt good because, that's what my mom really wanted people to enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And so I was just moving it on. I mean, I made sure my kids had what they wanted and that thing. And even my daughter, my newly adopted daughter, because I had given her some stuff. And I said, listen, I was like, all the grandkids have some of this Waterford. I was like, and she was like, well, maybe you should just save it for them. I said, baby, you are my real kid. So
Yeah.
I was like, so I said, and I was like, if my mom was still living, she would have been getting you stuff too. So, so moving on, and that was just, a thing that my mom really wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to be ready, like I said, to be a distribution center. If God told you to give it tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
could you give it?
Yeah, that's
Or
right.
would you be like, because there was a time where I wouldn't have gave certain stuff. There was a time because I didn't think I was ever going to get it back. But if God tells you to give it, he's got something better for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's what.
I'm done talking to y'all.
Okay.
We have been we're growing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been discussing the fact of moving and the possibility of moving into a different house and what that would look like and where we would go and would we want to stay in this area, blah, 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 blah. And I am a very sentimental person, and I don't want to talk to y'all. I have so many memories in this house with a ton of people, with my friend Aldana who passed away, with my dad who's passed away, with, when we moved into the house, some of the people that helped us get the things and paint the walls and do all the stuff. And our fifth child was born in this house. Like, I just have memories in this house. And to think about giving it up, it's just like, I don't want to. But at the same time, I do that all the time where I'll say to the kids, they have these blankets that they call Mimi's. And if I give them a blanket and I say, oh, well, your Mimi's in the laundry, you're going to have to use this blanket for tonight. And instead of them trusting me that it's going to be ready or that things are going to be taken care of, I feel like I want them to trust me. So why am I not sitting here and trusting God that he's going to provide those things? Just like the prophet said, just get the vessels, and we'll go from there.
And that's like the biggest thing of, because like I said, I used to be like, just hold on to it. But I've since learned how to
just let it go.
Just let it go. I was like, if he told, matter of fact, to a point, like if he told me anything that I have that he said give, I could give it, even if it's like my mom's stuff, and Lord knows there's more precious to me now that she's gone too.
Yeah,
but I could still do it, knowing that if he said it, there's a reason.
There's a reason that he's saying to do that.
Mm-hmm. So there's always that main reason, that balance.
Yeah.
So he said to do it, so okay, it's okay. And and we do have memories and different stuff, and we want to hold on to, but with us holding on to something, God can't put in our hand. He can't put in our hands what he wants to give us if we keep holding on to what we already have. And those are those moments you're like, okay, Lord, help me move on. Help me do what we got to do, to, get to where we need to go. And those are those things, and that's that maturing.
Yeah.
It's all going maturing, but those are the maturing things of that.
Yeah. That's there's lots of lessons in this. Even though it's a short passage, it's lots of lessons in this passage. Just as far as obedience and the, knowing what's in your house and trusting, and there's a lot. There's a lot. Utilizing what you've got.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
There's like layers upon layers upon layers in this story. Yeah. And I think about even the neighbors that they were willing to give.
Yeah.
Because they could have been like, no, that's my vessel. That's my thing.
Yeah. You can use it and fill it up and then bring it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they can just like, no, I don't think so. Bye.
Yeah.
There's so much.
That's another crazy thing that's been going on with the pandemic and stuff like that. When everything started to happen and everything was shut down.
Uh-huh.
There she is.
Yes.
I thought you took me literally. I really did want to keep talking to you. I just didn't want to receive what y'all were saying. but like I was saying, when everything was shut down, you only had your community to depend on. You only had your neighbors there.
Mm-hmm.
And there was nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I read somewhere about how when the Spanish flu happened and how people were able to get along, mm-hmm. or to move on, or to educate their kids, or to get doctors or whatever, they had to be in their community. And that's where the saying came from, it takes a village to raise a child, because they literally had to depend on their village to sit there and raise this child.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is a situation that she was in. She was dependent on her trust in God, her obedience to God, and her village, mm-hmm. to help to provide the vessels for her.
Right.
And so thank God to the neighbors didn't think that their empty vessels were not expensive enough to give her. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes we're like, oh no, it's just, it's just a pot, it's just a pan, but it may be what they needed.
Exactly what they needed. And you don't know, like you said earlier, just as far as being willing to be that distribution center. Are mm-hmm. you willing? Are you willing to be that neighbor? Or are you gonna be super stingy and just be like, I'm good. Mm-hmm. Deuces.
Yeah, we're gonna be like, well, I got mine.
Yeah.
Y'all gonna have to get yours. No, it's showing that love of Christ, and even those neighbors were showing her the love of Christ by giving them those vessels.
Exactly.
And because they didn't have to give it, but they did. Right. They did.
And the neighbors probably knew what was going to happen to her sons and what was going to happen to her. So they said, okay, we can, if anything, we can help so this won't happen.
Exactly. Yeah, and they were like, probably someone were like, is all you need is a vet? Girl, here.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the least I can do. Yes, I wanted to help some way. I just didn't know how. Here. And I think the whole moral of this whole thing too is like we have more than we think we have a lot of times.
Right.
And sometimes, and I know in my own life, I'm like, Lord, open my eyes to see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Maybe I'm not seeing stuff correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you put it in my heart, I know you got a seed already. Mm-hmm. Where is it, Lord? Open my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Open, and not just my physical eye, my spiritual eyes. Help me to see differently.
Yeah.
And open your heart because
Exactly.
your heart is going to measure what you're thinking and how you want God to be pleased with you. And if you just saying no, oh no, oh, she knocking at the door, oh no,
Ooh.
then God said, oh, okay, I know your heart, I know where your heart is.
Well, let's take it to another level. We're the vessels.
That's right.
I was just about to say that.
We are the vessels
Mm-hmm.
that God is using.
Yes.
And we're his representatives in this earth. And if he's telling you to go give something to your neighbor, you're like, them neighbors is mean.
Yeah.
He's like, just go ahead and give it because he has a purpose and a plan.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to be willing to be those vessels for him.
We had our two of our neighbors that live next door to us, and um, they have kids, and so my husband always said, "Oh, I got this cake. Let's take it over there." And I said, "Oh, okay, that's fine. Let's go." Yeah, and we brought them the ones that had a lot of kids. We bought pizza, and we
Oh.
uh, uh, took it there. And so Christmas time, uh, she said, "Well, we were out of town, but we wanted to give you this because you all are always giving to us, and you don't have to." And I said, "Oh, we don't mind. That's who we are. We do." And she said, "Well, you're teaching us how to be neighbors."
Uh,
And I said, "Wow, that's good. That's good to know."
Mm-hmm.
Because we know we want God to be pleased with what we're doing. And we say, God, use us. We are your vessel. Use us.
mhm.
And then when he wants to use us, but Lord, my money is short. I can't do it this month. But it's that, like Emily, like you said, it's the seed that you plant.
Yeah.
Mhm. It's the very seeds.
Hmm.
And I mean, you can be on welfare and on your food card, food stamps, and so some of that food, go in the store, buy some food and give to somebody who doesn't have it.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Exactly.
there's so that's a seed.
Hmm.
So I started seeing when I seen this store, I see more and more seeds. It's
Hmm.
seeds, and all I
Hmm.
know that's all he needs is my seed.
Hmm.
And if I
And
just give it
the,
to him,
and even in this pandemic, you see on the news how uh, people and even children are want to give things to the neighbors or people that don't have food,
hmm
and it has been such an eye opener for everyone now with this pandemic. Okay, oh, my
Mm-hmm.
neighbor next door is older. Let me see if they need some
check on
food.
them. Let me.
And
hmm
it showed us what we could do. A lot of times we say, "Oh no, I don't have the money. I can't do."
hmm
But this pandemic really showed us as believers in Christ what we need to do. As even non-believers, they begin to do things.
Exactly. And you know what? A lot of people weren't studying about the money either.
No, no.
If you really look at it, people weren't studying about the money, but
I
we were
know
just giving.
one. I saw a couple, and they showed them on the news. They said, so she said, we didn't have the money, but we just started cooking. And then me and my husband just started delivering meals to people that we knew or next door, or if they said they needed something, we start cooking. And she said, you know what? I feel so good to know that I'm helping. And I was like, wow, we never know what God is doing in this atmosphere to change
hmm
people.
Yeah. Well, ladies, we are out of time. Hope you all enjoyed this session. Hopefully, it gave you some ideas to look at things differently. We want to thank our guests for coming. Thank you.
Thank
She had good
you.
insight.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I know she had good insight. So I wasn't selfish. I stared her. I'm just saying. But love you
Love you too.
and have a good day.
Oh, have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.